What's up, everyone? DJ Nubis here with you on the Metal Time Radio podcast with another episode of Vintage Cult Cinema. And my special guest is the mighty Aaron Pynn from Cult to Cinema. Thank you for joining me, sir. Much appreciated.
Definitely my pleasure. Kick-ass song for the opening, by the way. Oh man, so many nice cuts in that video.
Took me a while to come up with that. Yeah. I was you and I are in the same boat. I'm pretty sure. Like, we love so many movies, and so whenever you're kind of thinking of stuff like that for clips and stuff, you're like, man, there's so many to choose from.
Okay.
And obviously today you and I are going to sit down. We're going to chat a little bit about this nice little movie called The Strange Vice of Mrs. Wardh. It is a 1971 giallo. That's how I pronounce it. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but directed by Sergio Martino and starring George Hilton, Edwidge Fenech, Christina Elraldi, Manuel Gil, Carlo El Lahiro, and there's a lot of names I can't pronounce, so I'm not going to butcher anymore. But as always, when was the first time you can remember seeing this, and how did it affect you at the time?
Well, I grew up in a small fishing village in Newfoundland called Cowhead, and I'd have to drive 45 minutes from my grandfather did for me to go to see a movie in the theater. Now, the theater that I went to didn't show many first run like films. Instead, it showed a lot of giallo and a lot of like early Jackie Chan stuff, like Half of Kung Fu, Deep Red, Tenebrae, Called Insane at the time. It was cut, and Strange Vice of Mrs. Wardh, along with Torso and Your Vice's Locked Room and All I Have Got the Key. So I was pretty young when I saw it. I was probably a teen or just over my preteen. So I was probably too young to have initially seen it. But so the first time I saw this one here, I didn't know that it was Martino because I wasn't like knowing directors at the time. I was like 12, 13 years old. But I really kind of dug it. I fell in love with Edwidge like so early on. I think so many guys like watch her films do. And when I got older, I started to get into giallo even more. I kind of grew up with it, and I wanted to discover it. So VHS comes around, and Anchor Bay starts to do these Dario Argento like VHSs, and like with these clamshell cases, and you literally had to be at the store and in a line, because if you didn't get in there and get like the first one or two, you weren't getting one, and you had to wait for if they got them back in. So I started to look up the giallos and stuff like that, and it was still hard to find stuff. It was not the days where like nowadays it's a golden era, you can buy anything. But back then, you had to like go order a catalog cup from a place called Video Search Miami, and for $25, they'd send you a movie, and it would come like in a green sort of like case with cardboard green case with a with the name on the front and a little description on the back, like typed on the back. So it was so that's when I got to see it again. I was probably in my 20s, and I sat down to watch it uncut, because I'm not sure if the first time I saw it in theater was uncut or not. I can't remember, but I really enjoyed it. I'm a massive fan of this genre. I recently on my channel I did like a starter's guide to collecting giallo. So it's something I go back to, and it's one of the most watchings on my channel. Or anytime I talk giallo, it's one of the most watchings on my channel, because I absolutely adore it. I'm a big fan of this because this is Martino's first giallo that he directed, though it's not the first one that he had something to do with. That was actually. This is 70 set of sale. This is a Lamberto Lenzi, Carol Baker set, the giallo set that they did, right? And there's one on here called So Sweet, So Perverse. And he actually was an executive producer on that. So that was his first, like, quote unquote, giallo work before he actually got to direct one himself. Edwidge Fenech, of course, had worked before with Martino. In the movie The Sins of Madame Bovary. Like, he was a producer in that, but he hadn't met her. And I guess we'll get into it afterwards, but there's a story behind Luciano Martino and Edwidge Fenech as well. So
yeah, so for me, like, I was really kind of a late bloomer to her material, just because obviously growing up for me, like the earliest version of Gala that I had known was Dario Argento, because Suspiria kind of kicked off this whole thing that I just started running into all his stuff and bought Deep Red and Tenebrae and all this stuff. So that sort of opened me up to it. So around 2019, 2020, I was just watching a lot of stuff on Tubi. Tubi was a big thing. It still is a big thing. And I came across a movie called $5 for an August Moon. And like, I just remember seeing her and I was like, wow.
Bella, Marabella.
Yeah, it's not just a beauty, but what I'm talking about. She has these eyes that are just, they make you melt. You look at her and you're just melting. Like,
Yeah.
very easy on the eyes. Even like in this still from one of the characters, George, in this, like, how do you not? Whoever casted her knew exactly what they were doing.
There's a story behind that, actually.
Okay, cool. I'm going to let you get to that. But yeah, so I saw that, and then saw A Case of the Bloody Iris, then saw Miss Wardh, and so I really kind of went down the rabbit hole when I first saw her and just started looking for movies that she's written. And there's still a lot that I have not seen, because I think a lot of her films, and maybe you can confirm this, are still in the native tongue of Italian and all that stuff. So unless it's like dubbed or something, like, and of course I just bought Miss Wardh from Severin, so I'm really excited to see some of the behind the scenes on that and whatnot, because they always put a nice package together for that. But so yeah, go ahead and tell me what's the secret here for this.
Well, you're right. Edwidge Fenwick's, a lot of her stuff has not been translated over into English. She's actually probably more famous. She's famous for Giallo here, but in Italy, she was more famous for the sex comedies that she did back in the day.
Okay.
She did like a bunch of those. She did a lot of work with Rosabella Neri, but the one that you like, $5 for an August Moon, which I absolutely adore, and I totally agree with you on. Mario Bava did not want to hire her. He didn't think she was good for the movie. She makes the movie. You're 100% right. But he didn't want her. He fought the studio not to have her in the movie, which is insane to think. When you watch that movie now, like, she's that standout. Because it's a good movie. It's not his strongest movie, but she makes it work even better than I think it would have worked without her, right? But Fenwick had she works in this with George Hilton, who she'd worked with before. Now, Hilton was in a lot of like spaghetti westerns and like stuff and that ilk of films. He does do the giallos as well, and does a lot of work with her because they became like fast friends. They were like family. So when you see them in like the nude scenes and the love scenes, it was kind of awkward for them because they were close to know each other's families. They hung out together. They were very brotherly, sisterly.
That makes sense, because they do have that one scene where they're on the couch and and it looks a little awkward. Now, granted, also at the time, they're not going to get super crazy with that kind of stuff, but you can kind of tell they are kind of like having a hard time connected in that way that would make it kind of sell. But I mean, they did a pretty good job with it still, though. But
oh yeah, and even worse, because the thing is, like, every time to get everything they wanted in the movie, Martino would film even raunchy scenes that we don't see on camera, just to get them cut out so that the stuff that he wanted wouldn't get cut out.
yeah,
So basically, Luciano Martino, the brother of the director Sergio Martino, he was a big director, big producer himself, big in producing films. So he had produced The Sins of Madame Bovary, and I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure if Rosabella Neri was in it, but I know Hilton was. Hilton knew Fenwick well, and Luciano Martino was in love with Edwidge Fenwick, but he was too nervous to meet her. So he told Hilton, hey, if you can introduce me to her, I'll put you in whatever, like, you want to be in. You'll have carte blanche with it. That is this movie. He introduced them. They actually dated for like 10 years.
wow.
So it was he cast her. So Hilton cast her in this film and introduced her to Luciano Martino. And they worked together a lot afterwards. they did a bunch of stuff. I think Luciano had worked on like Sweet Body of Deborah before this, and this would be the first like one for Fennec, if I remember correctly, when it comes to like Giallo. But then she would go on after this, which is really neat because there's a sequence in the film where Jean, played by Ivan Razmov, who is like one of the best bad guy faces in all of Italian cinema.
Oh, yeah, he sells it very well. Yes,
he just looks the part, right? And he writes her this note, and it says like, you can't escape me. Your vice is a locked room, and only have the key. And that would go on to be the name of their second Giallo that they did.
That was another great film too. Another great film.
Fantastic. What I consider is best. Like this one, they're kind of tied, but this one right here is was taken from that name. And again, it has some great actors in it too. Lucio Pastrelli is in that one, and he's I find him really, really fun in a lot of these films. Yeah. This one is a bit more. It gets a bit more serious than a lot of them. It doesn't do too much with the because a lot of these Italian giallos will still have that comedic influence, like Birth, Crystal Plumage, right? With the kind of the comedy character one that he's going to eat cats, stuff like that. Yeah. But this one plays it a little bit more serious, and it does it a bit different in the way that. So this was like the year after Plumage came out, but that was still like at the time people were kind of like aping on what Argento had just done. But this doesn't so much do that. I think it's because they were so close in when they were made. Because the Argento, the Giallo genre, which was birthed from Cremi films, the German Cremi films, they had a different style to them. So there's a lot more what's called the jet set Giallo, which are Giallo that's usually set in like different places. There's usually like a lot of rich people, like $5 for Alex Moon, right? There will be like a will or some type of thing where a lot of people are suspect. Mm-hmm. And that changed when Argento made Birth of Crystal Plumage. Then all of a sudden it was like murder set pieces, make it as gorgeous as possible and add in as many gorgeous people and just that whole exploitation aspect of it, which would go from any birth Giallo, which would birth slasher. So
yep, very much so. Yep.
So
this film basically, in Vienna, you have guys going around killing women with a straight razor, the atypical gallow type of killer that we usually get. It's either that or like a knife of sorts. Fenech, of course, is playing Julie Wardh, who is married to a diplomat named Neil, and I think that's played by Alberto de Mendoza. And I do have like a picture of them here. So this is them together. And then we also, again, like we have like, it's like a trio of men that come into her life. So we have the husband here. We have this former lover, Jean, who's his past with her basically sadomastic and abusive, but like very erotic too, like that earlier scene in the film where they're kind of rolling around in the rain and stuff like that. And then of course George gets introduced. He's like this wealthy entrepreneur or whatever, that's kind of like this. He's a really kind of like a ladies' man who initially is turned down by her. He's like trying to hit on her, but she's not really playing that game. She thinks, yeah, he's just a womanizer. I'm not gonna fall for that, But she's obviously also very unhappy in her marriage. Like it's more of just to marry Neil to get away from Jean, who still is like pursuing her, even though they haven't really seen each other that much. But he sends her flowers, and then there's like cards in there. How do you feel about the setup of the plot as we start out there?
I think it's really well done. I think they did some different things that I really enjoy. It's kind of like dreamlike in aspects, especially there's one with the party, and like the two girls just randomly rip each other's clothes off, and everybody's like, "Ha ha ha!" What a normal party.
I forgot when I was watching this the other day. So like, I was actually at my mother-in-law, so I helped her out because she's kind of dealing with illnesses and stuff. But she's not afraid of scary movies or anything like that. But I figured while I was hanging out with her, I was going to watch this again, and it was on Tubi. So, but I forgot how much nudity was actually in
Oh
it.
yeah.
So every time it would pop up, she's kind of like looking at her phone and stuff, and I'm like trying to talk to her, so I'm not looking like a pervert as I'm watching the film. But I forgot how much was in there. But yeah, that party was a bit of a weird scene because you have these two chicks, and it almost looks like they're in aluminum foil like dresses, like they're very easy to tear away. And for whatever reason, they start fighting, and everyone's like rooting them on as they're wrestling around in the middle of this room.
It's such a weird scene. It makes sense.
Yeah, it is. But you mentioned like the whole like sort of trippy vibe or psychedelic thing. I forgot how much was in here. Like there's that scene where Julie is with Jean, and like again, it's a little bit later, but he breaks like a bottle, and then you get this weird scene here where it's like almost psychedelic or trippy looking. That's actually very cool. I had kind of forgotten that the director had kind of brought some of that into this film. So I was kind of pleased about that with that, another viewing of it.
Martino, for when it comes to this type, he's like one of the most versatile directors that you'll ever see for giallo, where you see a lot of them that do giallo and like stay with giallo, like Dario Argento or Lucio Fulci, who kind of goes within like the more the gore aspect of it. Martino would make a lot of things from like westerns to comedies to dramas. Like he did a lot more when it came to this type of stuff. Now, but the trippy like vibes that we see here gets fully realized in All the Colors of the Dark, which is probably is most. If you haven't seen that, definitely check that out.
Yeah, I think
it's
I have or haven't. I'm not sure. I recognize the name, but I may not have checked it out yet.
It's fun because it's like another one where the girl's like, oh, my life is pretty crappy. I'm feeling it kind of sucks right now. And her friend's like, hey, why don't we go to a black mass? That'll spice things up. And I'm like, well, yeah, sure. But it's like that here. We got like she kind of meets George Hilton, the character, through the girl, Julie, who's like who's her friend. His was it cousin or something like that?
Yeah. Carol, is that right? Carol, is that?
Yeah, because they're like because they're like they're the last remnants of like they got a lot of money. They're like to like the Jetson one's like okay,
heirs,
a whole bunch of money. But it's so well done, so well set up. The beginning, it just throws you right into it, and then it unravels the world. It doesn't over-explain. It just lets it kind of like sink in and lets you fall into this like just absolutely gorgeously stunning looking thing. And every scene that she is in, like she is gorgeous. I mean, every picture you've shown up on the screen, it's like she just keeps looking better. You can't take a bad picture.
Yeah, I know. It's like sad. It's like crazy.
She truly is one of the most beautiful women that ever lived. And no shy either. George Hilton is a very good looking guy. Like he made a lot of like money off of that kind of like the marquee look. That's why he got to do those rugged westerns and stuff like that, right? He has that look, and apparently he was very like comedic behind the scenes. He's really kind of a bit of a jokester, more fun. So they would he'd say they do these scenes, and they would have like this parts like they're taped when they're doing when they got to do like the really raunchy scenes because it was kind of nerve-wracking, but it is so well like done. This one here, it just absolutely looks gorgeous, and the setup for this is one of the better scripted giallos. And I guess we should say Ernesto Gustodi is the head writer on this, and Gustodi wrote some, if you look in his filmography, wrote some of the best like giallos ever made. He's worked with all the greats. And although his name's not on here, Martino did write a bit of the script as well. He just kept his name off of there, and lost some money actually by not putting his name in the writing credits.
Oh, really? Wow. He probably regrets that a little bit.
Yeah, he does actually. He says it.
So they're at that party, got some craziness going on with a couple of gals, and then we realize that Jean shows up, and he's just from across the room. That makes Julie uneasy, to which she decides to leave the party. And of course, Jean then comes out, and they have a little bit of a confrontation. You can tell, and this is a great thing that I like about the acting with Idwich, is that she sells it that like she doesn't really want to be around this guy, but at the same time, she also, in the way she looks at him, like understands the power he has over her. Like it's like she can get away if she wants to, but it's like she almost can't. Like
Yeah.
there's just that drawness, that aura about Jean that keeps drawing her back to it. And then at that point, we get a nice little break because Neil pulls up in his car, and he's a little pissed off at Jean. And there's like this, I think he slaps him.
He does, yeah.
John just kind of like, laughs and smiles and then walks away. And again, Neil and Julie are okay, and then he takes her away. But it's a really weird dynamic because then again, George ends up coming over with Carol one day to go to lunch. And, he's again trying his flirtation to get her, or, at least let her know that he likes her. And I don't know. Again, like I really like the way that the acting is in this, and like you said, George. I have to probably check out some of his Western stuff because he looks the part. He looks the part. So I'd have to try to check out some of that stuff because they do a great job in this, all of them, and it really sells it. Like that's what's so funny is by the time we get to the end, like I never expected what happened. Like I just never expected it.
It's so good.
So I mean, you can kind of explain some of this if you want, just kind of like how you feel about how the introduction of George is coming in the second time around and what the plot is there.
I think for me, like everybody is just so well cast in this film, and they really embody the parts that they play. When Hilton's brought in as kind of the cad character, the ladies' man, and she has that attraction. The good thing about Edwidge Fenwick is she is multi-layered in all the performances. So, like you mentioned before, like she is repulsed by Jean, but she is like drawn to him. There's just something that she can't. Like there's this, like they had this like sadomasochistic relationship, which she was kind of into at first, and then it spiraled, and it got abusive, and she managed to get out of it. She marries a guy that she shouldn't have. Because they're just not, the compatibility's not there. You can see that the marriage is a chore. And then Hilton comes in and he's suave, he's debonair. She's trying to, like, she's gotten away from one bad guy and she doesn't know if this guy is going to be the one to take that place. And she does that thing where in real life, unfortunately, like you get out of a bad relationship and you'll be attracted to the exact same type or a similar type of relationship.
Bad boys, yeah.
Yeah, and he has that, not the like I'm gonna like slap you type of feel, but he has that type of kind of the little bit of danger, a little bit like it's more behind the eyes type of thing. So it is so well done. It's extremely well paced, and everybody that comes into this that gets a lot of nudity that gets shown are just fantastic. There's a similarity to this and a later D'Argento film, Tenebrae, which I can't say without giving stuff away, but you know what it is. But it's extremely well done. The setup is great, but the thing that even better is that sometimes you get a great setup and you won't get a fantastic payoff. You get it all here. Martino and Gastaldi like scripted the hell out of this one right here. Gastaldi's big on the fact that he has rules when he's scripting a giallo, and it's, if you go back and watch the film, you will be able to figure out, because clues are sown throughout the film, and if he doesn't sow clues through, he feels he's cheated the audience. So if you watch this and you don't figure out the twist, guys, you can go back and watch it again, and all the hints and clues are right there in front of you, and they're done brilliantly. And this is one that definitely you can rewatch for various reasons.
I like how you nail it too, because the way that Julie jumps from relationship to relationship. Now Neil's like the safe space, but because of her past with Jean, like with George, like the bicycle, the motorcycle ride, like he's speeding through all these countryside corners and stuff, and she's terrified, but yet she's excited. So this is that part. That's like that danger side to her too, where she likes that excitement. She keeps living for that thrill, but it leads her down to bad choices in relationships. So I do like that comparison that you made. The other thing about this is, which is really cool, because while all this shit's going on, we have this killer on the loose who's just murdering random women. Like he's just, stalking them, cutting them up. And it reminds me a little bit plot wise, just in terms of how we have the killer going around doing things, but that's almost like on the back burner to what everything else we're watching. So you remember the movie Summer of Sam with John Leguizamo. So those things were going on behind the Summer of Sam killings were going behind the shit that's going on with the drama, with the relationships. And so I like how these movies kind of parallel in the way that they're designed. So it's like we kind of forget about the killer sometimes. We're just like, yeah, we know he's there, but we're just kind of wondering if it's one of these guys that we're messing with here,
Because it's Julie's story, right? But we've got this serial killer, and there's a Jacques Demy film, Young Girls of Rochefort, and that does kind of a similar thing. Where the girls are in the foreground, but there's a serial killer. But this is a musical that has a serial killer on it, which is worth checking out, by the way, if you haven't checked that out. It's just the way it's woven through, because we're not quite sure, is the serial killer like someone that's kind of, is there a reason that is he after her? Is there like a whole other aspect to this? How is this going to weave together? And it does, but not in the way I think that a lot of people will expect it to weave together. I think the first time I saw it, because I did not guess the first time I saw this movie. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, yes, I was super intelligent at 12 years old and I figured everything out. I totally did not.
I watched it again the other day, like I told you earlier. Like, I still didn't remember the ending. Like, I knew some of what was going to happen because I remembered some of the twists, but I still like, oh, yeah, that's right. That's what happened. It still got me.
It's a good one, man. It's a really good one.
Yeah. So, again, one thing I do like about this also, again, we talked about the acting. Conchita Arialdi, who plays Carol, I like the sassiness of her best friend, the one that's very arrogant, the cousin to George. And obviously when Julie is having like these breakdowns because she keeps getting flowers and, she's worried about Jean and him pursuing her. And of course, then she's got this stuff going on with George, and she has a lot going on her plate in terms of her love life while trying to keep it away from Neil. And it's at this point that when she has that moment on the couch with George, somebody's watching and they're documenting. And so they give her a phone call saying, hey, I saw what you were doing. I need 20K or, I'm going to tell your husband. And so she's thinking it's John, that's the only person she could think of. But instead of her going to the meeting place, it ends up being Carol. And that's when Carol's attacked in the park and killed. And now it's like, everyone's looking at Jean as the guy because they're going to the police. We've got the investigators in there. Again, I love how they, once we get to the ending, it's just going to be crazy because it was such a crazy way of shooting that scene. That was amazing. But the police are involved. They're questioning John, but John has alibis, and so does George, and just everyone else they're talking to about Carol's death. Then we also get the scene where they end up coming to, was it Jean's pad that they found his body, or was it a different place? I can't remember, where he's in the tub.
Oh, the tub. Yeah, that's such a cool scene. It's a throwback to and Then There Were None. It's definitely like an Agatha Christie reference when it comes to this one. It's so gorgeous looking too. Like, that's the thing with giallos that they do, and it's almost twisted, but they make these deaths look so stunning. And it does. It looks creepy and just beautiful at the same time. And when you find this, when they find his body, and it's like, I love Razmouth. I really do. Even as a dead body, like, he just commands the screen. But I think it was at his place because it's in the bathtub, and there's little things, little touches to that sequence that I really love. I was in Canada last year, and I got to go and see My Bloody Valentine. Don't worry, it's going to all come together. And that movie also is heavily influenced by.
Is that the original one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was also really heavily influenced by And Then There Were None, including like having a sequence with water, with the mine water in My Bloody Valentine, with the bathtub, in both that movie and also in the original, like Chrissy, And Then There Were None. And they all sort of lead to a similar type of thing, which is super cool. If you know, you know. It's so well done.
Yep. So they find his body, and at this point, they kind of feel like they're free. So, you know, George and Julie are planning to go. Is it back to Spain? Yeah. No, travel. Let's see. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, so she travels to Spain with George, and they're going to kind of vacation because Neil's still doing his diplomatic stuff. And while there, again, it's, you know, we're halfway, like a little over halfway in the movie. So John's dead, and we're like, okay, so he's not our killer if that's the case, because we still got all this movie to go with. And so while she's there, she again gets flowers. Like they separate, they're shopping or something, and they separate. And she again gets flowers, and now she's like losing her mind because, like, the fuck, you know, you should have been dead. And then all of a sudden, someone takes a shot at her with like a spear gun, which misses her, but hits like a tire of a van or something. And so she jumps in the car, which belongs to George, and drives back to the pad. And when she gets in there, there are things that trigger her trauma from her past. And so, like, again, the water, the tub, and she just kind of faints. And then all of a sudden we see Jean there, who is quite alive, and he starts cutting the cable to the gas. And, you know, he's going to let this thing, like, burn, and then he leaves, which is, I like the touch with the ice cube in the door. Like, even though it didn't really work the way you wanted, I don't think it was a nice touch of how he wanted to do it to try to create that spark. How did you feel about that, like, unraveling there with that plot device?
It's fantastic. The revelation that we're into spoiler territory, that he's still alive, comes from, actually doesn't come from And Then There Were None, but the bathtub does. It comes from Clouseau, Diabolique, which was a film that they all loved. And they were big on locked room murder mysteries. And they'd like heard, okay, what's the perfect like murder for like a locked room? So he said, okay, ice cube, because it'll bring the lock down, it'll dry out. And brilliant, by the way. It is so well done, and the way that it is set up, and the way it's shot, by the way, cinematography, this is freaking fantastic. It's so good, and there you can see all the influences, but nothing seems like taken from. Everything seems just its own special little place. Razumov's back, and we think we've seen the twist, and we still haven't at this point. This is the Midway twist. It's a wonderfully done scene, like the way that he just has set everything up, and her reaction, and we want to see her like fight back or do something to get away from this guy and escape. And the movie's not giving us that. Yep. The movie is making us as helpless as she is, and we're like frustrated, and we're like, oh my god, it can't go this way. And then it keeps going that way. And like, no, something's going to happen now. Like, George Hilton's character is going to come in any second now. You know, something's happening now. No, that's going to happen now. And then there's an ice cube on, and the door. And I'm like, oh, damn it.
Yep. Yeah, that's the one thing about this film that I always found surprising. Is just you watch it through, you know, the first half or so, and you're like, it looks like it's just kind of following your blueprint of usual Gallo films, but then it just starts doing these weird things. And it's like, oh, I thought I figured this out. No, I didn't. And so, yeah, so she's on the ground inside the kitchen, and that's when George and this doctor shows up, and they're trying to revive her. They stop, of course, the hose and the carbon monoxide that's going through the house. But then, unfortunately, they are unable to revive her, and Neil shows up, and he's very angry at George because he's figured out that they're kind of seeing each other and his wife, and so he's very angry about that. But we get this even weirder scene, and obviously there's gonna be some spoilers, so anybody that's gonna watch this that wants to watch this first can stop here and then come back at a later time. Yeah, because there's no way you're gonna get through this without exposing what happens. But so we see Jean. He's in this, like, I don't know if it's like a pit or a desert of sorts. It's outside the skirts of the city, and he's hiding behind a tree, and this car pulls up, and out comes George. So there we go. There comes our twist. And they confront each other, and they know each other, obviously, and it looks like what was happening was the idea was to basically, kill off Julie and get some money. Of course, the other switch there was for George to get rid of his cousin Carol so that he could be the sole heir of the money that he would inherit. I love this scene because it's like, that's, like I said, I was expecting everything to kind of follow suit.
Yeah.
And then when John shows back up, and then we get this scene with George and John, just like, what the fuck is going on?
It's like, it's the next twist, and it kind of brings it into like Patricia Highsmith territory where strangers on a train at this point. I'll kill yours and you like get rid of mine type thing.
Yep.
And by this time, like, I'm not sure if you mentioned it or not, but they've already cut the killer, and he was killed earlier on.
Right.
He has nothing to do. Those murders have nothing to do with this.
Nope.
In actuality, him getting killed early on makes them change the plan of how she's going to die. She was originally supposed to be killed with the straight razor, but then one of his victims stabs him. And he's literally like, he's nobody in the film that you really, it's like, it doesn't matter. He doesn't matter. Those are background kills. We've been led astray. About the affair with, because it still matters because they're using them to copycat to do these other murders, so that they can kill Carol, so that they can kill her. And he messes it up by getting caught and getting killed. So they have to like switch things up, and all of a sudden the suicide is planned.
Yeah, that was funny too, because like when the killer was getting caught, and then the mask came off, I was trying to see if I remember it was like any one of those guys, and it's not. So I said, "Oh yeah, that's right. He's just a decoy." I love that. Yeah, it's so cool. Like, and of course, even George referenced it to John, like, or referenced it later when he says, the best way to cover up a murder is to do it while there's like a killer on the loose, like just make it look like it's this person doing this stuff. So in this meeting between George and John, they're talking about discussing how they went about things. Of course, George is a little pissed off that John got a little bit lazy and not really following through with certain things, and they're talking about why it got messed up. But in the end, is you can never trust anybody you work with in villainy. Is George ends up shooting Jean dead right there, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we figured that part out. Which then leads us to the end. I'll let you explain the ending because I'll touch in on a couple of things, but I know this is one of the better parts of the movie, so go for it.
It's brilliantly done. We've seen this, and we've gotten our twist, and we got our double twist, and we get him driving down the road, but not picking somebody up. And who does he pick up? But the husband. So now there's Neil and Hilton, and they're in the car together, and they've planned it all along. This really is strangers on a train. They're killing each other's like annoyance, really. He wants his wife out of there. He wants the insurance money because he needs money bad. He needs insurance money for his wife, but he can't. If something happens like out of the ordinary. So suspicion goes on him. He needs his cousin dead because he wants, like I kind of hinted at earlier, all of the inheritance, not just half of it. So they've done this together. They've planned all this. It's all fun. It's all great. They're actually laughing, which is awkwardly laughing.
Yeah, he starts kind of like weaving on the road as they're laughing.
Much like, it kind of like parallels the motorcycle like ride earlier. But they're like, it's almost like a sitcom, at the end of a sitcom where they do that kind of laughing thing. And they're going by and they see somebody.
Real quick question on that. So do you think though, because even though I was watching another movie last night that was a lot worse when it came to dubbing, do you think it's a dub issue with that? Is why it seems so awkward with the laughing, or is it just how it came translated?
I think that's a dub issue type thing. But it's okay because it doesn't, like, as far as like, I don't normally watch them dubbed, but I did watch that one dubbed today. Actually, first time I think I watched it dubbed, because when I saw it, no, it might have been dubbed in theater actually when I saw it. But
I mean, it doesn't hurt the movie at all, but it was just
no, you can watch it either way. Bother.
Yeah,
but it's a nice scene, and then we see like a hitchhiker that looks really familiar, and Neil says, "That's Julie," and he's like, "No, Julie's dead. You can't. She's dead. She's buried. You can't undo that." And he says, "Okay, if you're certain, you're sure, let's go back." And it's at that point when I first saw this film, and when I watched it again, actually, then I thought, okay, maybe there's a twist. Maybe he's actually working with Julie and he helped her, type of thing. Maybe he's not as bad as I thought. Maybe the husband's not bad. Maybe this is a way to catch him. But they go back and it's Julie. She's alive because the murder of Carol doesn't look like the other murders that were done. It's one thing to like copycat a murder, but you gotta do your homework. And John Scotton, he got lazy. He didn't do it right. They knew it wasn't the same person, and that's when they got suspicious. So the doctor that pronounces her dead at this point is in on police. He's lying. So they take off in the car, and it goes from swerving because they're laughing and it's fun and they're getting away with it to like trying to get away. And it does not end well for these two. However, right at the end, we get Mrs. Wardh with the doctor, and it looks like there's a romance going to happen there. And that, I'm like, I don't feel she's safe yet. I don't trust this guy either, and he has more fur than I do.
That scene, like I'm looking, I'm going like, who's the victim here? Because like now I'm starting to think she's might be the one to be the predator.
Yeah,
now.
I mean, like you don't know, and it nicely leaves it right there because she was in that like relationship, and they had that sadomasochistic kind of like bond, and she does go towards these darker characters, and either maybe she's darker too, or this guy is going to be yet another in a long line of the wrong turns for Mrs. Wardh.
Yeah, one thing I loved about that final scene when they back up and they're trying to see who it is, like she's standing there, and I'm like, you thought like maybe there was this other double cross, and I'm thinking, does she have a twin sister that just happens to know about this shit? And that's what I'm thinking at first. But then the favorite part that I love at this scene is because obviously when they're backing up, it's kind of on an incline. And so she's walking down towards them, but then all of a sudden you see like a couple of motorbikes and a cop car coming, and they're like, we've been double crossed, it's a trap, and they start running, and they flip their car into the river, and then that's kind of the end of them. But yeah, I thought like, just like I said, just when you think you kind of understand how this movie's going to go, it just keeps doing things and changing things on you to like, it's like, damn. And those are the frustrating ones because you think you figure it out. But that's what makes them great,
And it gives this one a high rewatchability factor because, like, you can go back to try and see like where those twists were put in there, where they're kind of like placed, and of course because Martino does deal in the exploitation aspect of it, and there's a ton of nudity, so also gives you
all the time
reason to go back and rewatch this movie. Pynn is incredible in this. I think everybody does a good job in this one here. Sometimes I watch these yellow, and there'll be like one or two characters. Like if you're watching like a martial arts film, sometimes you'll have that character that kind of like really stands out as like being like the weak part of the film. Um,
Yes.
and there's no one in this film that is a
Mm.
weak part of this film. Um, absolutely, and that's so like, and it's his first. Yeah, this is his first giallo. This is the first time he's done this. And guys, he will continue to get like really good. A Case of Scorpion's Tail, I think, is next, right? This is the next one. Uh,
Possibly. Yeah, I didn't look at
that,
it, but
that he
yeah.
did. And somewhere around there. And I know there's I'm not sure if he directed. Did he direct that one? I think he did. And then there was, of course, like your Vice's Locked Room, and then there's All the Colors of
Case
the
of
Dark.
Scorpion's Tail. Yeah. Yep.
Because
And
there's
it pretty much went all in the way you kind of said. So you had Case of Scorpion's Tail, then Your Vice's Locked Room, and All I Had the Key, and then All the Colors of the Dark, and then Torso. So these are like all like major classics within this genre.
it is too. I do have like a stickler bit Torso because I do think it's adjacent. It's got Giallo-esque things to it, but it's at a point where slashers are like kind of become more of a norm type thing. So I think
Yeah.
Curtains and Torso are two movies that are skirting on the edge of Giallo, but are more on the side of the slasher genre.
True.
But I love
Very-
both those films. I have like multiple copies of them. I've got multiple copies. See if I can show this because it's from Shameless. Yeah, I got multiple copies of Strange Vice on DVD. And I can cover right here. Strange Vice on
Oh,
Blu-ray.
wow.
Yeah, they did some really good dishes. By the way, guys, if you ever buy a Shameless release, they're like from the UK. They try to put as much nudity on the back of their releases as possible.
The selling point.
Oh yeah, Shameless releases. They're Shameless.
I've never heard of them, so I'm going to have to check out their site.
Oh yeah, they do like they started with a ton of like yellow cases, and they did like New York Ripper. They did a whole ton of the like Footsteps on the Moon, Oasis of Fear, like a lot of the Giallo stuff. So many of them you put them together, the spines, and it spells out Shameless on the spine.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is
That's
really
very cool. Yeah.
And of course, they did a really cool one for the washing machine, which is Ruggero Diodato Giallo that definitely needs to get a new home because we haven't seen it since Shameless. And if you haven't seen it, it's a really good one actually. And it's different. It's erotic, but it's unique. And the case that it came in was like a metal case with a translucent like circle in it.
Oh, wow.
And the disc is like of a body in a washing machine. Which is super cool. There's just so many like ways to go when you're looking at this type of stuff. Martino's stuff is great. And if you love this film, then you're probably going to like the Umberto Lenzi, Carol Baker ones as well. And if you've never watched Argento, then like start with like Bird and work your way up through there. My favorite person Argento is Tenebrae, by the way. That's the one that
I remember that.
times.
Mine is Suspiria, of course, but you can't really go wrong with Argento. I mean, I've always kind of liked his. It's all a little bit different here and there, but yeah, his earlier works are fabulous stuff. Well, give me your final thoughts on this film, and then give me a rating of 1 to 10 of where you rate this.
All right, so this one here is a first Giallo work for Martino, and it is fantastic. Edgewood Finnick would start a long collaboration with Martino with this film. She would be in a bunch more films, both Giallo and non-Giallo. And after this, she would really get into like the kind of the comedy ones that would really make her famous. Hilton is like shines this. Razumov does what Razumov does best, and this one right here. I think everybody's on point for a film. For a Giallo film, I think it's near perfect. For a Italian film of this type, it's still near perfect. We don't have any weak performances. The score is really good on this one here. It's got a really decent score. I'm trying to remember who did the score. I can't right now. That's more your thing, actually. It's
Nora Orlandi
did the score for this one. Okay, so
music,
yeah. So music's fantastic. The cast is wonderful. I got to give it. It's a 10 out of 10. It's 10 out of 10 as Giallo, but it's a 10 out of 10 as just film wise as well. It proves like what a great director Martino is, and that he can just dive into any genre, whether it's like comedy, giallo, western, sword and sandal, and just automatically feel at ease and make the people that he's working with feel at ease. It's fantastic. It's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I agree. As much as we've fawned over Fennec in this, like the rest of the actors involved are all top notch. Everyone hits it. Even on some of the smaller roles like the detectives and stuff, it's no slacking. It's all right there on point. It all works well with the chemistry of the crew and everything. And this is one of the better gallows scripts I've ever seen, because again, you think it's just kind of following a certain formula, and then by the time you get to the end, you just feel like, wow, like that's insane. Like I can't believe that. Like that's amazing. So yeah, for me, it's a 10 out of 10 as well. Still one of my favorites. I love Fennec. We've said so much about her already. For those that don't know, Aaron is part of a channel called Cult of Cinema. He does a lot of DVD and Blu-ray reviews. He does a lot of ratings of actual rankings of like different years of movies. I love those a lot when he takes the tier maker and he's like putting them, and he talks with his chat about where they go. So it's always fun to watch him when he's doing this stuff. He has a lot of knowledge in movies and theater. It's been a joy to talk to you, sir. Please tell people what you might have coming up on your channel soon.
All right, so I'm finishing up a series now called You Can Keep Only 10. And basic premise behind that is you're going to a desert island for the next 10 to 15 years. I go through every boutique label that per video. I'll go and I'll say, okay, I can keep 9 Blu-rays and 1 box set. What do I take for Scream Factory? What do I take for Vinegar Syndrome? Or what do I take for Severin? And challenge myself to do that. And I do bonus videos on my Patreon as well with the alternate 5, which shrinks it down to 5 and makes it even more challenging because I can't.
That's gotta be so tough.
It is. And I've just started a new series called for like people that are starting collecting or just want to like focus on certain genres and stuff. The Starter's Guide to Collecting Giallos out, and the Starter's Guide to Collecting Film Noirs out. And next week I'm putting up one for slasher films as well. And I've got an unboxing hopefully coming up really soon. I'm going to Spain next week. So much like Mrs. Wardh, I'm also going to Spain. It's one of my favorite places to visit, actually. So we're going to Torremolino, I think, to just as like in the Costa del Sol like area of Spain. And I just want to sit back and relax for a little bit. And then I'm going to come back and do some unboxings that I'm very, very excited about. So a bunch of different stuff, a lot of pre-tapes. There's some lives coming up too. I like to balance them in so that I got some nice evergreen stuff. So you can go in and watch, like, you like Giallo, you like this type of conversation we had right here with this super talented guy. Then, yeah, I talk a lot about Giallo and stuff like that because it's my jam. It's what I like. It's my, I grew up
loving this. This shit. He knows his shit. He's my idol when it comes to this shit. Very knowledgeable in this round of stuff. So yeah, please go like and subscribe to the Cult of Cinema. As for me, tomorrow, Mr. Tony the Dead and I are getting together again for the Ghouls of Midnight. We go over every week where we alternate picks. My pick for this week will be 2024's Humane, and his will be 1988's Waxwork. And so we're going to be reviewing those and then putting them up. Then I'll get out to try to see Fantastic Four. I want to see what that's all about. A lot of hype about that right now in the theaters. We'll probably do a review of that. Come Saturday, I've got stuff with Action Film Autopsy with Fat Samurai Guy as well as Rick Myers. I have a friend that I'm doing a top 10 Devin Townsend albums. He's in the band Vasectomy, and we're going to give our top 10 albums from that particular artist. And then later in the evening, Olvin and I will get together for Silver Screen Savants to review the movie Beowulf 2006. So that's pretty much what's on my docket so far. Aaron, thank you so much for joining me today, man. It's been a blast. We have to do this more. I love talking with you and movies and all the time. So
thank you so much for having me. I always enjoy it, man. It's fantastic. Waxworks. That's going to be fun. That's a good one.
Oh yeah, it's a classic. Like I said, like and subscribe to the Cult of Cinema. Like and subscribe to the Middletown Real podcast. Give us your thoughts on this film. What do you feel about it? Do you like it? Think we overrated, or do you think it's underrated? I think it's very underrated for most people. But like I always do, Aaron, hang around. But for what I like to do is on this show is every time I go out, do a little bit of a musical tribute to the movie we just reviewed. So, The Strange Vice of Mrs. Wardh. Thank you again, Aaron, and we'll see you next time on the Vintage Cult Cinema.